Spradley from the film, and let me get it because I don't want to mess it up, Missing in Brooks County, which is making its world premiere at the Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival in Arkansas. And again, okay, so Lisa, I think you did this the last interview. Let's have Jeff introduce our audience to what the film is about.
Missing in Brooks County is a story of two families who come to Brooks County, Texas, looking for their loved ones who have gone missing after crossing the U.S.-Mexico border, as hundreds do every year in Brooks County.
And Kate, you are a subject in this film. We get to see you, you know, at your work. We get to see the as I've mentioned before, the uphill struggle that you go through, you know, trying to identify and kind of put. I think it's at a certain point in the film you really stress the idea of, you know, these are people we're talking about, and talk about, again, we've touched about this before, but talk about enlightening other people that don't really understand this part of the immigration issue.
Sure. There are, when you close a border and when you make it impossible for someone to seek asylum, they're going to come. You can't stop migration. They're going
to. Uh-oh. Okay, I think we're going to have to step in for Kate until she comes back. All right. We'll have Kate pick up when she gets back. But Lisa and Jeff, I want to talk about finding the film that you wind up with. Because oftentimes, you know, when we're mapping out our outline as documentary filmmakers and we're trying to fill in the spots with interviews or with footage or, you know, or what have you, sometimes that film changes. Can you talk about the process for this film, for Missing in Brooks County, of where it began to where it wound up?
Well, I do have to say, I'll start and I'll pass it off to Jeff, but based on other films I've worked on, I almost always have a very clear vision at some point in the filming, not at the beginning at all, but somewhere, you know, in the middle, toward the end of the filming, of how this is all going to come together. I did not have that for this film. There are a lot of stories in this film. It's an ensemble piece, really. And if it were up to me, everything that we shot would be in the film. There's so much that didn't make it into the film that some of my favorite things that we shot are not in film. So, but it all has to serve the story. Whatever's there has to serve the story. And so it's about, you know, what is the story? And I think Jeff and I had a lot of long drives in Texas, going from Falfurrias to Houston to San Antonio to Austin. And we would talk a lot about the film. And I think in those conversations, I think it began to emerge. But this was not an easy film to edit. We did a lot of shuffling around. I mean, I think we also had other stories of other families that we just didn't know were going to fit and ultimately did not fit into the film. So, you know, it was not an easy thing to come together, but, you know, some of the best things in life are not the easiest things to do. And, you know, it all came together in the end. So
well, that's the thing also, is that, you know, as you say, and Jeff, I'm going to now take the next step to you, because when you do have multiple storylines, so to speak, or multiple characters, as you do in this film, sometimes one character or one person is very charismatic, or one story really over the course of filming presents itself as, oh, we just keep getting drawn to this one. And is that what happened here, Jeff?
A little bit, I think. But like Lisa said, at the end of the day, it all has to serve the story. I don't know if Lisa was smiling. She may be thinking of the same character that I am, but we had a cowboy who was the foreman of a ranch who the camera loved him. He had the voice, he had the look, he had all of it. But with
There was
every,
another short film made about him. He was a whole film made about him.
and now he's probably what, I don't know, he's got 2-3 minutes in the film. And it's just the way it worked. One of the families that became a focal point for the film actually came to us after we were pretty well into filming. And it happened because we had come up with a temp title for the film, which at the time we considered temporary, but it was Missing in Brooks County. We had put up a little website, and they were missing their loved one, and they were online searching for the words missing in Brooks County. And that's how we ended up connecting. And they ended up, playing a major part, participating in the film. So I don't know what the lesson is there, except that maybe consider keywords when you're naming your film. But so things did shift around for us. But let me just also say that our editor, who's also a producer of the film, is Lisa's husband, Jacob Bricka, and he just did a fantastic job. And Lisa's also an editor, so I think she was supervising him a lot there in Arizona. And people ask me too, didn't you feel like an outsider? And the truth is, I tell people, they disagreed with each other more than I ever disagreed with any of them, I think.
No, Jeff and I are totally always in sync. I think like 99% of the time.
Yeah.
But what's beautiful about Three People is that then we could send it to Jeff, who had more distance from it, each cut, and then he could give feedback. Because when you're editing, well, anyone that's ever made a film understands when you're editing, you get really, you lose sight of things. You get tired of the material, or you think something's working and it's really not. You can't have the perspective. So that was so amazing to have another filmmaker 3,000 miles away who could have some distance. And but there was one point where Jeff was in Connecticut, I was in Toronto, Jacob was in Tucson for 4 months, and we were editing like that. But nowadays it's really not that hard to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of normalized now, especially in our pandemic world where we're making films like this. Let's talk about the hardcore directing relationship and divvying up of responsibilities between the two of you when you were actually out in the field. Who was doing what?
Well, I have to say one thing. I went to a women's filmmaker retreat before this project started. And one of the things I said at this retreat was, I would like to, work with a cinematographer on my next project. I'm always shooting my own stuff. I'm really self-taught. I'd love to work with someone who has more experience than I do. And so, Jeff was the person that came to me with the project, but it was something that I was interested in. So it did really appeal to me when we started working that he had really good skills with camera. That was important to me, that for this next project that was going to be something, so Jeff is, very skilled with camera. And sometimes we were, shooting together, and we would talk beforehand, who's going to be wide, who's going to be close, this is how we're going to do it. But then sometimes I would just let him film, and I would sort of be more of his eyes. So because, and that relationship, and we got really good at that. I think you need that. You need one person who's scoping out the scene and the situation and checking back in with the person behind the camera, and then switching or whatever. But it's wonderful to have that. And normally I'm out there by myself, so it was really quite a gift to.
Yeah, and the other thing is that people respond to other people differently, and so some people, Lisa, they would respond to Lisa. Or some people, she might come to me and say, listen, I think you should talk to this person. So that was really nice to have. And I don't know if it was maybe having a one woman and one man, I don't know, but we did, we kind of had our assignments in terms of the participants in the film who was the sort of point person, and that was helpful.
Got it. And now let's throw to Kate really quickly, because Kate is back. We've got her back in the mix. And, you know, and again, Kate, and let me have you, you know, again, just hoping you'll stay with us, but in case you don't, I want to get your voice in here. You know, again, we're talking about, when someone is doing a job like the job that you do, and, you know, and you have the self-awareness that not everybody gets it, and not everybody, is really understanding, of the gravity. And then you have an opportunity like this film to come along. You know, how are while these two were coming around and knocking on your door, so to speak, and were you also encouraging it and like sending them in other directions, and talking to other people, or were you just like basically going, all right, well, film me doing my thing, and then good luck with the rest of it?
It's a good question. I think that when they started filming me working, I work with many colleagues, and this is something that we all do collaboratively. No one person can figure out what's going on and help identify people on their own. So they started filming when we were figuring things out. So I think they got to go through the same process that we did, and they were able to see all of the key players at the same time we were. Got
it. And then Lisa and Jeff, here's something that because I've been talking with a few different documentarians today, and I've had this on my mind because your film with another couple of them does something very well, and what it does very well, I think, is that beyond simply showing us the story, simply giving us the information, you catch moments. You catch moments with your subjects, and and maybe that's for the two of you. It's as you were saying, Lisa, with being able to divvy up and one person hitting close and one person hitting wide, but you're able to catch maybe just that little moment of exasperation with Kate in a moment of with our the moment where we have our rancher at his kitchen island with Fox News on the 24/7 broadcast next to him, but there's just a moment of silence there, and which is actually more affecting than anything this guy says, because it catches us in that moment of again of highlighting his humanity beyond the stuff that he's saying, which is not so awesome. Again, as filmmakers, how much of that was is in the forefront of your mind? Now, when you're editing, that's a different thing because you're sniffing off a few seconds here and a half a second there, and you're a little bit more. But as you're shooting, are you aware of catching those moments?
Look, I'll just say one thing about filming with Kate. I guess when you're filming, you are looking for that human behavior and that human emotion as much as you can. Kate is so professional and she's so calm and cool and collected. We were constantly hoping that she would really get riled up. And she did a couple times, but on her scale, it's still so controlled. In real life, I'd like to take a page out of her book, actually, but for film, we were always trying to kind of, at least hoping that she would sort of light up a little more.
I think, because we were filming for so long and we just kept going back and really filming with a lot of the same people over and over again, you're bound to get those moments eventually. That's, when you're filming, you have good luck and you have bad luck. We had a lot of bad luck, but we also had a lot of good luck. In the sense that we were at the right place at the right time. But I actually think it's not about luck. It was more about being committed to establishing the relationships and continuing the relationships. Because, one of the things I think about is the fact that we had a relationship with one of the JPs who is in the film. So when they found Juan, Border Patrol told us, well, you can't come with us today because you're not on the list for the day. but we knew the JP that was on call that day. Well, we thought she was on call that day. And so we called her up and we said, are you on call today? And she said, yes. And we said, okay, we're going to come with you. You know, is that okay, to the scene? And she's like, sure. You know, because we had been filming with her. We knew her very well. She was very comfortable. She knew what we were doing. But if we didn't have that relationship, we wouldn't have been able to have access to that scene of finding Juan. And I don't know if your audience has seen the film yet or not, but Juan is one of the people who went missing, you know, when he crossed the border and came to Brooks County. So, so it's not really luck. That's not really the right word, but it's more just a persistence and really trying to stay connected and really trying to make meaningful connections with people. And that we did a lot of that.
Well, again, you know, I've said this before, and you know, and I'll repeat it here in conclusion, that I think that's one of the things that's really wonderful about the film is that you know, it goes beyond you know, giving us such great insight into this aspect of the immigration issue that people don't really consider, but it goes far beyond that into doing what Kate is, you know, obviously working day in and day out, and then that's to humanize this and to, you know, and to remember and force us not to forget the human connection. Again, the film is missing in Brooks County. Lisa, Jeff, Kate, it's been wonderful talking with you. Thank you for being on Films Gone Wild.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that one was for a film site. I think that's why.
Yes, yes, there we go.
Kate
Okay.
is out in the field.